Winter Tales by Grandma Caroline. In a small village, nestled beyond 7 mountains and 7 forests, there lived a little girl named Ella. On this particular day, Ella woke up unusually early. She looked out the window, and before her eyes lay a white, wintry landscape. The entire area was covered in a fluffy white blanket, and gray clouds in the sky hinted at even more snow that day. Ella jumped for joy from the moment she woke up, because she was going to visit her Grandma Caroline, who lived just a few houses down the road. She was staying with her for the night, and was thrilled, as it meant more time with Grandma and more winter stories. Grandma Caroline had a special gift for telling stories. Her words transported Ella to faraway lands full of adventures and mysteries. Grandma's tales were filled with warmth. Listening to her, it felt as though time slowed down, and the world around became magical. Ella opened the door of her house, felt the cold air, and headed toward Grandma Caroline's house, which was nearby. The path was narrow, and the trees on both sides formed white arches overhead, as if inviting her into the magical world of winter. Ella ran happily, lifting her feet high to avoid the snowdrifts created by the night's wind. The snow beneath her feet squeaked, and tiny flakes danced around her, swirling in the air. Soon, she stood before Grandma's house, which could not be mistaken for any other. It was a small wooden house with dark green shutters, always looking as though they were open to the world. A thick layer of snow rested on the roof, creating a delicate white crown around the chimney, from which smoke was rising. The house was surrounded by evergreen trees, which, like guardians, quietly observed everything happening around. Ella stood at the doorstep and knocked, waiting for a reply. "Come in, darling," said Grandma Caroline, her voice full of warmth and affection. Ella opened the door and stepped inside. Immediately, she was greeted by the familiar scent that always reminded her of this place, a blend of fresh wood, vanilla, cinnamon, and the smell of tea Grandma always brewed when Ella came to visit. Grandma's house was warm and cozy. In the room where she always sat, a fire danced cheerfully in the fireplace, its flames casting a warm light on the wooden furniture. The walls were adorned with various pictures, and on the table stood a small vase of dried flowers. The entire room was filled with love and peace. "I'm so glad you're here, darling," Grandma called out when she saw Ella. Her eyes lit up with joy, and a smile brightened her face. Ella always felt safe with Grandma. "Grandma, will you make me some winter tea?" asked Ella, feeling how cold her hands were from the walk. Grandma smiled and nodded. "Of course, my dear. Sit comfortably by the fireplace, and I'll make the tea. Winter tea is something special, you know." Ella went to her favorite armchair in the corner of the room and settled in. She loved this moment when Grandma prepared tea. Grandma had her own special recipe that made the drink particularly delicious. From a drawer, Grandma pulled out a wooden box and began picking the right herbs and spices. "Winter tea isn't just a drink," Grandma said, mixing the ingredients. "It's a magical potion that makes winter more enjoyable. Here we have some ginger, cinnamon, cloves, and pieces of dried orange. I've also added some honey, because it always helps on cold days." Grandma poured water into the kettle, which was gently steaming on the stove, and then began slicing the oranges. Her movements were calm and precise, as if she knew every step by heart. Ella watched in awe. It felt like she was part of some mysterious tale that Grandma was creating. The air in the house was filled with the scent of spices, which blended together to form something extraordinary. "Grandma, will you tell me a winter story while we drink the tea?" asked Ella, eagerly anticipating another one of Grandma's stories. Grandma smiled broadly. "What story would you like to hear? About the snowflakes that dance in the forest? Or maybe about a mysterious wintry land where everything is covered in ice? Or perhaps about the kingdom of the winter wind? Ella thought for a moment. She loved all of the stories, but today she was in the mood for something special. "About the mysterious land, Grandma," she said, moving closer to the fireplace. Grandma smiled mysteriously, as though she knew the answer to every question. "All right, we'll start with the mysterious land. But remember, Ella, these stories aren't like regular fairy tales. These are tales that came to us from far corners of the winter world. Sometimes, when you look out the window in the evening and see the snow quietly falling to the ground, these stories might seem real." Grandma Caroline sat beside Ella, and a mysterious glint appeared in her eyes. She began to tell the tale. "You see, Ella, in a faraway land, where winter never ends for years, the wind carves its own paths, and the snow forms shapes that change as soon as you look away. It's a land that has never been seen by humans, but it's said that sometimes, when you concentrate very hard, you can glimpse it through the window on a cold, snowy night." Ella gazed at her grandmother's face, imagining this magical place. Grandma could see that the story had sparked Ella's imagination, so she decided to add more. "And in this frozen land live winter pixies. They are very tiny creatures with a bit of magic in them. Their favorite pastime is playing winter tricks. Sometimes, when the snow started to fall from the sky, the pixies would stretch out their tiny hands and begin to blow snowflakes into the air, causing the swirling white to form incredible shapes. When thick layers of snow covered the earth, the pixies could gently move the drifts, creating strange spirals and patterns that looked like mysterious maps. It was said that these maps led to winter treasures, but only the pixies could read them. They also loved to play with ice. They skillfully created small, transparent bridges that disappeared as soon as someone tried to step on them. If you see the snow begin to move and the shadows dance, it could be the winter pixies searching for a place to play." "Are they dangerous?" asked Ella, unable to tear herself away from this magical tale. "Oh no, darling. The winter pixies aren't dangerous. They're just like the wind. Sometimes they surprise you, but they never do anything bad. They just have a lot of joy in them, like winter, which loves to change everything around. And if you manage to see them, it means you're part of this winter magic. But remember, the pixies always disappear before you can catch them, so if you see them, you must be very quiet and watch from a distance." Ella smiled to herself, imagining the tiny mischievous creatures playing with the snow. She felt that the winter world of Grandma Caroline had as much magic as she could ever imagine. After a brief silence, Ella looked at her grandmother with a gleam in her eyes. "Grandma, tell me one more story," she asked eagerly. "Something even more magical." Grandma smiled warmly and began to speak again. "All right, I'll tell you about the winter sprites. They are very small, invisible creatures that live in the snow. They're always there when the first snowflakes fall. At night, when everything is quiet, the winter sprites come to the surface. Their job is to make sure every snowflake falls in the right place. Sometimes, when you see a little flash in the dark or hear something gently sliding through the snow, it might be a winter sprite passing by you. Though they're invisible, their presence makes winter beautiful and full of magic. They're like tiny guardians of the winter world, making sure the snow covers everything with an even layer." Ella listened in awe, sipping her warming tea. The taste was unique, and a sense of curiosity stirred inside her. "Grandma, why do you always add so many spices to the tea?" she asked. "Does it have something to do with winter magic?" Grandma Caroline smiled mysteriously and began to explain. You see, The spices I add to the tea aren't just ordinary ingredients. Cinnamon, ginger, and cloves are like little pieces of winter magic that warm our hearts and bodies. When we add cinnamon to the tea, we feel warmth fill us up, and the scent reminds us of the winter forest, where the air is fresh and frosty. Ginger, though sharp, gives us energy and strength for the winter days, and cloves help us feel peaceful and happy, even when it's freezing outside. Ella listened in awe, imagining that these aromatic spices filled her tea with magic. It was the magic of winter that Grandma added to each cup. Grandma Caroline looked at Ella with eyes full of warmth and peace, and the smile on her face said everything. After a moment of silence, she spoke again. "You know, Ella, I've always loved winter. I've always loved it, even when I was younger. There's something about winter that no other season has. In winter, everything becomes quiet and peaceful, as if the world is resting after a whole year of hurry. I love how the snow covers everything around, creating a soft white blanket that makes the world more beautiful. I love watching the tiny snowflakes fall from the sky and swirl in the air, as if dancing to the rhythm of winter music. I love that moment when I come into a warm house, take off my winter clothes, and feel the warmth return to me. But most of all, darling, I love winter evenings when we sit together, drink tea, and tell stories. Winter gives me a sense of peace, as though I have time to think, rest, and enjoy every moment." Ella listened to Grandma with admiration, then thought for a moment. Finally, she looked at her and smiled broadly. "And I love winter because everything is so magical. Winter days when everything around is covered in snow feel like a fairy tale. I love making snowmen, throwing snowballs, and walking on fresh snow that squeaks under my feet. But most of all, I love sitting by the window in the evening, watching the snow, and feeling the world become quiet. I also love it when Mom and Dad make hot chocolate, and then we all sit around the table together. Winter is a time of joy for me." Grandma looked at Ella, placed a hand on her shoulder, and smiled gently. "You're right, darling. Winter is a time for joy, magic, and family time. But now it's time to sleep. The winter night is quiet and peaceful, and dreams of snowy lands will surely be beautiful. And if you want, tomorrow I'll tell you another winter story before we go outside to feel the cold air and the joy of the snow." Grandma helped Ella settle into bed, tucked her under a warm blanket, and kissed her on the forehead. "Sleep peacefully, my dear," she said, "and when you wake up, the world will surely be even more beautiful." Ella smiled, closed her eyes, and felt her heart fill with peace. In her mind, she pictured the winter adventures Grandma Caroline had told her about. The scent of winter tea still lingered around her, bringing a sense of warmth and safety. She fell asleep in this magical atmosphere, waiting for more stories that awaited her in the winter land of dreams. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for new fairy tales every day.